Hello, this is National Chess Master Rats at chess.com, continuing my video series on the correspondence team match play between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. This is played on board 207 to 210 boards, rating advantage high 1400s versus about 1200. Our man is vikrantbychess. He's playing against Bill's 1943, and Vikrant went and lost his other game on timed out in a winning position, so I can't make a video on that game. And Bill's 1943 had some chances in this game that you missed. Hopefully this helps you both, and as well as everyone else watching. Okay, we have the closed Sicilian or Grand Prix type Sicilian. Both sides are developing their pieces. Now, what Black's next move is the kind of move I've been criticizing so much this video series, when they're pushing the rook pawns up. Yet I'm not going to criticize a6 here, because there are positions where you do push your rook pawn, and this is one of them. And how do I know? Well, it's experience, and it's not experience having to do anything with this particular position. It's experience with this particular opening, the Sicilian defense. Black, it's common that Black will a6 and b5 and fianchetto this light squared bishop. Also, there's in an open Sicilian is where the d pawn comes up and this pawn is exchanged. Black getting the half open c file, White getting the half open d file. White often castles queenside in that position, not always, but often. And Black will be running his pawn storm against the enemy king. Also, the two pawns on b5 and a6 tend to restrain these three pawns from doing much. And usually White doesn't want to move those pawns because it'll create weaknesses in his position, and the c4 square becomes a very powerful square that Black likes to occupy because it can induce more weaknesses. So thematic-wise, there are positions where you do push your rook pawns, and this is one of them, and you learn these from experience. It's not the main reason I criticize the rook pawns is when they're doing it to keep a bishop and knight out of there, which is absolutely going nowhere. Again, if you watch my video on the on how to play the openings part 4, that's what I accentuate, is when you're pushing this move, making these moves with the express purposes of making sure that your opponent doesn't put a bishop or knight on the square. That's when on b5, come on, color it in, there it goes. That's when it's wrong. But White's not wanting to do that. Black's wanting to expand on the queen side. So let's see how it goes. And there it comes, b5. Now White can't bring his bishop here because c4 will trap it. But I don't think White played the best move. You don't want to block your d pawn in, although White will fianchetto this bishop soon. e2 is the natural square for the bishop, but it worked out. And here Black's developing his queen side and hasn't done anything yet on the king side. So White's objective here is to try to eventually attack the Black king. Okay, and here Black creates a weakness in his position, but so it might have been premature to have brought his bishop to e7, allowing for this possibility. But anyway, they're still developing their pieces. Now, Black has to be careful about potential pressure along this diagonal, so he shuts it down. And here's a case where, let's see, how do we say it? Okay. A lot of times I think moving your knight there too quick or too early is not the right choice, but here seems to make sense. It stops Black from castling queenside right now because of a fork. Probably Black's best choice is to castle kingside, surprisingly, and let the attack come. Because as these pawns advance, Black will develop counter chances against the enemy king of his own, surprisingly. Black's best move is to castle. Instead, Black makes a move which relates back to my discussion on the rook pawns. He moves the rook pawn, And here's the situation. What do I say when I talk about the rook pawn? What does it do? It weakens a square. It weakens G6. And here's a point where White could have just seized an advantage if he understood some thematic destructive combinations. What White plays is knight H3, trying to keep the F file open so he can get F5 in. But knight takes F7 is a very powerful move. We'll see why. Okay, if Black doesn't take, he's dropped a pawn and G6 is hanging. So Black's pretty much obligated to take. And now comes some pressure. Attacking the knight and threatening to regain this pawn. And suddenly White has a very, very potent attack going. Black doesn't have time to save his knight. I think he's just going to run into trouble. Let's see. Check. And it looks like F5 is pretty potent here. The threat is pawn takes discover check. What's Black do here? What does he do? It's kind of hard to find a defense. Okay. So, taking here doesn't help. I was looking at this. There's a check. You can block with the rook, actually. And now the knight is pinned. That's one drawback with opening up the D file, opened up the F file. And White's threat is to play knight D1, driving the queen out of D4 and putting more pressure down this long diagonal. White will win his piece back and have a much better game. So these are themes you want to look at, and that's one of the beauties of correspondence chess. You can sit and play with this thing for 20, 30 minutes and consider all the possibilities. And had you done so, you would have found that you could have done this, okay? So White didn't play that, or Black didn't play knight takes, or White didn't play knight F7. He retreated the knight, as I mentioned. And now Black decides he's going to head for the queen side and not face a king side attack. But White starts playing for the queen side attack. That's what you're supposed to do, pawn storm. And now Black is supposed to be trying for a pawn storm of his own. Let's see if these things actually take place. So he shuts down the file, and now the F7 square is menaced. And here's, I think White missed a very strong move in here. Let me see, or maybe it's not now. Maybe it's looking at the score at the moves. I know preparing this, I'd worked several things out. Let's see. Maybe it's down the line. I'll come back to it if I don't see it. I'm pretty sure it's down the line. Okay, so White's trying to open up things, but here he basically bungles a pawn. Now, in compensation for the pawn, he gets some open lines, but he now bungles. Whoops, what's it doing? Don't do this. He gives up another pawn, and he's going to lose the exchange, or quality as is known in other parts of the world. But he is opening up lines. Now here I think White took the wrong rook. Take on F1. Yes, that keeps a rook on B1, but it exposes the White king a little more and gives White the chance that maybe he'll take with the rook and get his rook off the open file. So he took here, and now Black's winning a lot of pawns. White does have 4 minor pieces and a rook, and White's king is reasonably safe here. Black's not really poised to take advantage of it, but Black has a lot of material, but White has some open lines, and the Black king is a wee bit exposed compared to the White king. So you've got to open up lines, and here I think Black made a very critical move. I mean, when he played king c8, I just groaned because you're putting your king in the center. This bishop is controlling a lot of turf in front of the king. This c file is almost open, and I think the king is not safe there. The king needed to go to a7 or a8. Okay, so b takes, and here black grabs another pawn. I don't think he should. His king is just getting into danger, and yeah, here's where white missed a good move. It wasn't here that I mentioned earlier. If white plays rook c1, white's winning that bishop back because black can't defend it. Queen e5 or queen e3 is met by knight e4, and that bishop is a goner. And suddenly, white is going to have two pieces for the rook and a very, very, very exposed black king. I like white's chances for a win here. So, this king is just not safe. I can't find a reasonable plan for black here, other than to try to hunker down and hold on. Maybe knight b5. But this is falling with check. Where are you going to put the king? d7 looks awful precarious. Blocking steps into a pin. See what I mean by precarious? White's better here with good winning chances. But white didn't see it. You got to see these simple combinations. White goes after the rook. And now there's a difference. Rook c1, queen a5 or queen a3, this knight's not able to get quickly back to e4. Even if black has to give back the exchange to relieve the pressure, that knight's misplaced. So he does try to get it back, but it's too little too late. Because, for one, black can take it, and he does. And now it's just becoming a routine win for black. The white counterattack is broken. And as I mentioned earlier, when the center pawns disappear, black would have some pressure against the king, and certainly he does. And here, but this isn't right. White's doing well again. Cancel that. White's doing well again. He misses bishop e4. Yeah, that's right. There was one other chance white could have gotten back in this game. What do you do? What do you do if you're black here? If you move your queen, you're dropping this. You're just running into all kinds of trouble here. Let's see. Are you dropping this here yet? Bishop takes, rook takes. I know white had a good move here. Let's see. Is it rook d1? No, it's going to run into queen takes. Let me see. Bishop take. Oh, wait. How about bishop e5? Keep the pressure on. I think white's doing quite well here. White's in a bit of a pickle. Or black's in a bit of a pickle here. This bishop is still shaky, and let's see. If anything, you can bring the queen over to back up things. Let's try this. So the point being, you're threatening the bishop. If you take, you're activating the white queen, which is now threatening a checkmate down here. I think white had some reasonable play. So he found the right square but the wrong piece. And knight e4, and suddenly the black game is winning. After all, I was a little premature. Forgot about the bishop e4 miss. But now he just bungled a bishop. And, the game is quite hopeless. And here, queen d5, and white blunders. And I'm assuming that black sent a bunch of conditional moves here, but he misses checkmate 1 for 2 consecutive moves. Okay, queen takes g2 is mate. Game over. Okay, so he checked here. I guess he's eyeballing the thematic rook takes, queen back, queen there mate. Missing all along, he had queen takes g2 mate. So black brought the queen back here, and black still has this mate, but he stopped and took the queen first, and now he found queen takes g2 mate. So I'm not sure if it was a conditional series or not. Since he found it in the end, you would think he would have found it in the beginning and realized it. You know, you still win, but you try to get in the habit of doing mates in one when you can. Okay, it's nothing personal, but some people will laugh at you and say, "Yeah, you missed a mate in 2 straight moves." You know, it's kind of embarrassing. We all do it. I've probably done it myself. Missed a quicker win, but you know, you don't want to. It's just better for your chess just to dig in and find the right move. Anyway, thanks so much for your time. See you with the next video. Take care.